My name is Joyce. I'm 27 years old, and I work as an architect at a local firm. On my days off, I like to relax by reading books. My childhood was very hard, which is very different from the calm life I live now. The person who made me feel happy wasn't my real parents, but my aunt. She is always kind, full of love, and 14 years older than me. Today, I want to share some special memories with her. As a child, my strict parents didn't treat me warmly. I remember in first grade, I made a small mistake on a test. My parents got angry and said things like, "Isn't it embarrassing not to get a perfect score?" I could only say, "I'm sorry." My mother would sigh and say, "Why do we have a child like this?" Her words hurt me deeply. I felt sad and frustrated because I couldn't meet their high expectations. I grew up in a wealthy neighborhood. My father was a doctor, and my mother was a nurse. From a young age, I went to private schools because my parents wanted me to become a doctor too. But I was never very good at school. It was hard for me to get top grades. Soon after I started school, I could feel that my parents didn't really want me. I often felt angry and alone. Even so, I kept studying hard by myself at home and at cram school, hoping to make them proud. My younger sister Kelly, who is just 2 years younger than me, was very smart. Even in kindergarten, she was learning things I didn't understand. She always did better than me on tests. My parents were very proud of her. They gave her most of their time and support. Because of that, they made me quit cram school before second grade. Being pushed aside by my parents really hurt me. I tried to keep studying on my own, hoping things would change. But to my parents, I was just a sad and quiet girl who wasn't good at anything. Even though my parents treated us differently, my sister Kelly and I were very close. She always looked up to me and loved me. That made me feel a little better, but I still felt bad about myself. I always thought I wasn't good enough compared to her. When I moved up to second grade and Kelly started school, things got worse. On holidays, my parents took only Kelly to museums and theaters in the city to help her learn more. I had to stay home alone. They told me things like, "It's a waste to give nice things to someone who doesn't understand their worth." I wasn't allowed to go with them. Kelly always looked guilty, like she wanted to say something, but she never did. I spent those lonely days at home, crying while I heard happy voices from other families outside. I felt dumb and unwanted. I started to believe my parents didn't love me at all. I thought love from parents was everything, so I blamed myself for everything that went wrong. Then one day, my parents planned an overnight trip with only Kelly to a museum far away. Since they didn't want to leave me alone for 3 days, they woke me up early that morning and took me to a small old apartment in the next town. My dad looked annoyed as he rang the doorbell. A messy-looking blonde woman opened the door. It was Cheryl, my dad's much younger sister, my aunt. After a short talk, my dad left me there with my bag and didn't even say goodbye. Cheryl looked tired and said, "Come in," nodding her head toward the room. I sat down on a thin cushion in the living room, feeling nervous. I didn't know Cheryl well. We had only spoken a few times, and we weren't close. My dad always warned me to stay away from her, saying things like, "She's from a lower class and barely finished middle school." She looked a bit strange at first, with her messy blonde hair and old gray sweatshirt, but I didn't have a choice. I was worried about staying with her. Suddenly, I smelled something nice. It was food. Cheryl came in holding a tray with clam chowder and scones. "You didn't have breakfast, did you?" she asked. I carefully took a sip of the soup and said, "No, thank you." The warm, rich taste filled my mouth. "It's good, right?" "Clam chowder is the best breakfast," Cheryl said with a laugh. Her warm smile and the tasty food made me feel a little better. Over the next 3 days, Cheryl took good care of me. She made tasty stews and risotto, and I ate happily. She smiled and watched over me, often asking, "Want some more?" while offering second helpings. She also took me to the zoo. She was excited to show me around and pointed out animals like, "Look at that gorilla. Isn't it cool?" I had so much fun that day. After that, whenever my parents went on trips, they left me with Cheryl. She always welcomed me with warmth and kindness. Slowly, I started to trust her and really liked being around her. Cheryl often said, "I always wanted a little sister like you," and treated me with so much care. But even though my parents kept leaving me with her, they talked badly about her. I heard Cheryl had problems in middle school and didn't go to high school. My dad said she worked a low-paying job and barely got by. When he was drunk, he'd joke, "If you don't study, you'll end up like her." I used to believe everything my dad said, but I didn't think he was right about Cheryl. She was a great cook and a kind person. I didn't understand why they looked down on her so much. As time went on, the way my parents treated me and Kelly became more and more different. By third grade, they gave me just enough food and clothes to get by, almost not enough. It was bad enough that someone could have called Child Protective Services, but my parents were respected in the community, so no one would believe they could act this way. When I tried to study, I was told, "You're in the way. Get out." And I'd be sent outside. It didn't matter whether I studied or not. Things were always hard. I wasn't allowed back inside until evening. I had no friends or adults I could trust. I spent most of my time studying in parks or libraries. But on weekends, Cheryl always welcomed me warmly. She was the only one who really cared about my health. One day, while I was eating a soft omelet she made, Cheryl suddenly said, "Joyce, would you like to live with me?" I was shocked and didn't know what to say. She gently patted my head with her cool hand and said, "If life at home is hard, think of me as your parent. We'll eat together every day, sleep side by side, and even go to the zoo sometimes." It sounded like a dream. Just hearing it felt unreal. But then Cheryl laughed and said, "You might not want a silly parent like me." I quickly said, "That's not true." Her offer made me feel so happy, but I also felt unsure. Cheryl wasn't married, and I worried that living with me might be too much for her. I also wondered if my parents would be angry and feel like I was turning my back on them. "Cheryl, could I really live with you?" I asked softly. She smiled, gave a thumbs up, and said, "It's okay." That moment meant everything to me. I really wanted to become family with Cheryl, and I made up my mind. Later, Cheryl talked to my parents. They were strongly against the idea, not because they cared about me, but because they didn't want people to ask questions or judge them. They didn't want others to know one child wasn't living at home. After many talks, they agreed I could stay with Cheryl, but only as a guest, not as her adopted child. Once it was decided, things moved quickly. I packed only my important things and my school bag and moved to Cheryl's house. On my last day at home, my parents coldly said, "Don't fall behind in school. If you become a problem, we'll send you to a home right away." Only my younger sister seemed truly sad. Even though she was little, she knew I was being pushed away. With tears in her eyes, she hugged me and said, "Big sister, I love you." I still had some feelings for my family, and her tears broke my heart. But when I arrived at Cheryl's place, feeling both sad and hopeful, she welcomed me with a big smile and said, "Yay! I'm so happy you're here." At that moment, I promised myself I would become family with Cheryl, one we could both be proud of. Starting a new life with her wasn't easy. My parents gave me very little help, and I had to move from a private school to a public one. But even with those challenges, every day with Cheryl was full of joy. When I had trouble with homework, Cheryl would sit with me and look through the textbooks, trying her best to help me find the answers. Even if I didn't get a perfect score on a test, she would happily celebrate my 95%. She'd say, "95 points is amazing. You're really smart, Joyce." With Cheryl's support, I slowly became more confident. I made friends to play with after school. I stopped going to cram school and didn't study as much as before, but strangely, my grades still got better. I even became one of the top students in my class. The stomach pain and tiredness I used to feel disappeared. I think those were caused by the stress from my parents when I was younger. By the time I was in 6th grade, I had grown stronger inside. My parents' way of thinking didn't affect me as much anymore. I felt free from their strict and narrow view of the world. As my sister grew older, she began secretly visiting me at Cheryl's house. She was still doing well in school, and made our parents proud, but she also had her own thoughts and often told me how frustrated she felt. When Cheryl cooked, my sister would watch closely and help out in the kitchen with a big smile. 9 years passed since I moved in with Cheryl. I got accepted into a national university to study architecture. There was a special reason why I chose this subject, and I also received a scholarship, so I didn't need money from my parents, and I didn't want to trouble Cheryl either. On the day I got the news, Cheryl cried tears of happiness. She made my favorite dish, seafood doria, and we celebrated. Over dinner and drinks, Cheryl shared stories about her past. She told me she was born from her mother's affair. At first, her father raised her like his own, but because he worried about what others would think, he didn't treat her with love. Cheryl grew up wishing for her parents' love, but when it didn't come, she started rebelling. Eventually, she became distant from them. They were actually my grandparents. Cheryl looked at me with kind eyes and said, "Joyce, you turned out so well. You didn't go down the wrong paths like I did. You've grown so much." By the time she was 32, she was calmer than in her younger days, and I could see deep feelings in her gentle eyes. I told her, "It's all because of you, Cheryl. Without you, I don't know where I'd be." Just thinking about how different my life could have been if Cheryl hadn't welcomed me made me feel scared. She gently touched my head with the same warm hand she had used 9 years ago. A year after I started my new life as a student, something unexpected happened one spring day. My parents showed up at my apartment, their eyes red with anger. "Did you trick Kelly too?" they shouted. I was caught off guard and quickly asked, "What happened to Kelly? Which medical school is she going to?" That only made my parents more upset. Their faces turned even redder. "Don't joke around. You must know about Kelly," my father said, too angry to finish his sentence. I already had a feeling what this was about, so I calmly said, "Oh, so Kelly has decided to go to culinary school? Did you talk her into this? Did you fill her head with these crazy ideas?" My father snapped. But I hadn't done anything like that. The truth was, Kelly had let our parents believe she was studying to get into medical school, but she secretly wanted to study nutrition. She had been accepted into a nutrition program and would be starting school that April. "She's going to study nutrition, not medicine," I said. My mother shouted, "You're just jealous of your sister becoming a doctor, and now you're dragging her down too. How cruel." "That's not true," I said. "Kelly made this decision on her own. Don't lie. There's no way a smart girl like her would choose to be a nutritionist," my mother yelled. In truth, Kelly didn't only want to be a nutritionist. She had bigger dreams, but I didn't tell her parents that. I knew they didn't truly understand her. Then my mother shouted, stomping her feet, "This is all your fault." From behind me, I heard a voice. "It has nothing to do with Joyce." It was Kelly, and Cheryl was with her. My parents were shocked to see Kelly, and their anger grew worse. They turned their attention to Cheryl. "Cheryl, is this your doing? Did you not only mislead Joyce, but now Kelly too?" "That's none of your business," Cheryl said, standing strong. Kelly stepped forward to protect Cheryl. "Don't blame her. I started liking cooking, and Cheryl let me use her kitchen." It was true. Kelly had started visiting Cheryl's house just to see me, but over time, she got interested in cooking. She began helping out and slowly grew to love it. Our parents had been so focused on her grades, they never noticed, even when she came home smelling like sesame oil. Kelly had thought about going to culinary school, but she couldn't leave home without a scholarship. So instead, she chose nutrition. Like me, Kelly had received a scholarship that allowed her to stand up for herself and follow her own path. She still dreamed of becoming a chef someday. My father was shaking with anger. His voice trembled as he said, "Kelly, I'll allow you to take a gap year. Quit that university now and go to a prep school instead." "I won't do it," Kelly said firmly, standing up to our father's angry demands. Seeing this, our mother tried to speak more gently. "Kelly, a job like nutrition or cooking is something anyone can do. It's not good enough for someone as talented as you. Everyone expects you to become a doctor." "Then, Mom, can you cook?" Kelly asked. "If anyone can do it, can you make perfect popcorn shrimp or vegetable salt dishes?" Well, our mother stumbled. The truth was, she had never been good at cooking. She always bought food from the deli or order delivery. That's one reason Kelly and I had come to love Cheryl's homemade meals so much. When our mother couldn't answer, Kelly gave a cold laugh. It's funny, really, living your whole life depending on others to cook for you, and then looking down on chefs. It's better to let someone who wants to be a doctor take that spot, instead of forcing me to be one. That way, it helps more people. That's just an excuse, my mother said. No, it's not. Mom, Dad, don't you realize? My sister is actually more talented than I am. What? My parents said, shocked. There's no way that's true. Do you even know which university she goes to? They asked. You don't, do you? Kelly said, looking at them both. You also don't know how good the architecture department is at her school. She got into a national university because she's excellent at what she does. While Kelly may have been exaggerating a bit, it was true that I had become a top student, and it was all thanks to Cheryl. I added, Mom, Dad, you don't even know how well I did in school because you never came to a single parent-teacher meeting. Hearing that, my parents went quiet. I looked at them without emotion. It wasn't you who raised me into who I am. It was Cheryl, I said. Kelly gave a sad little laugh. Hard to believe, isn't it? But it's true. My father and mother stood there speechless, unable to respond. Their proud faces fell. They had been yelling just a moment ago, but now their faces turned pale. I've already arranged everything, Kelly said calmly. I paid for my own school, I've got a place to stay, and I've already moved my things out. You didn't even notice, did you? What? My parents looked stunned. Cheryl stood nearby, arms crossed, clearly fed up. All you ever cared about were grades. It's sad. You had such wonderful daughters, and you never really saw them for who they are. Ugh, my parents groaned, embarrassed and unable to argue back. Being scolded by Cheryl, the same person they had always looked down on, must have been their worst nightmare. But it was the truth. That day, Kelly left home for good. With help from a friend, she moved to another state, over 6 hours away by car. I didn't expect that argument with my parents to change anything. I knew they wouldn't suddenly become better people or leave Kelly and me alone. When I started my second year of university, they suddenly called me. I had a bad feeling right away. No matter what they said, I had already decided I would never go back home. We met at a restaurant they liked. Cheryl came with me, and my parents clearly didn't like that. As soon as we sat down, they spread a bunch of pamphlets on the table, all from universities with medical schools. What's this? I asked. We're giving you another chance to apply to medical school. Isn't that a great opportunity? My father said. It's your chance to redeem yourself. You can finally beat your sister and stop being looked down on. I couldn't believe it. They still didn't get it. But just for fun, I pretended to be excited. Really? I'm so happy. Maybe I can get in this time. I didn't realize you both cared so much about me. I should be thankful. My father looked proud. My mother smiled like she believed every word. I couldn't help it. I burst out laughing. Ha ha ha. What's so funny? They asked, confused. I just find it funny that Dad is actually taking this seriously. There's no way I'm doing that. I have my own life now. When they realized I was joking, their faces turned bright red. They got angry fast. For people who wanted me to be a doctor, they didn't act very wise. Kelly has never looked down on me. It's you two who have always looked down on us, I said calmly. Well, my mother muttered, unsure of what to say. Anyway, I have no interest in medical school, I said firmly. A vein throbbed on my father's forehead. Why can't you and Kelly understand how noble it is to be a doctor? Is this Cheryl's fault too? Once again, he blamed Cheryl. He didn't understand anything. Cheryl just gave a small smile. Brother, you're so stubborn. What did you say? He snapped. Joyce and Kelly aren't saying doctors are bad, she said. They just found something else they love, architecture, nutrition, and cooking. Even if those are jobs that anyone can do, so what? Just then, a deep voice spoke up. My father turned around in surprise and saw two strong, healthy-looking men standing nearby. Who are you? He asked. Perfect timing, one said. You just insulted an architect and his son. What? My parents looked stunned. At that moment, Cheryl stood up and gently pulled one of the men close. This is my husband, she said. Nice to meet you, brother. The man smiled and said, I'm Harold Mayett. Cheryl has told me a lot about you. Yes. My father stammered. Cheryl and Mr. Mayett had actually been dating for 6 years. Now they were officially married. When I turned 22, even though I told them they didn't need to wait, Cheryl and her husband had kindly chosen to delay their wedding until I became an adult. Because of that, I became close with Cheryl's new family and also developed a real interest in architecture. So, when Cheryl suddenly announced her marriage and her husband began speaking seriously, my parents were caught off guard and didn't know what to say. Then Cheryl's father-in-law stepped forward with a friendly smile. Nice to meet you, Dr. Jordan. I'm Mr. Mayett. I run an architecture company in this area. I've heard from Cheryl that Joyce is interested in my work. You've raised a smart and wonderful daughter. Yeah, my father replied awkwardly. Mr. Mayett continued. I plan to retire soon. I'd like Joyce to join our company and learn the job, so she can carry it forward someday. My parents were shocked. How dare you decide that on your own? They shouted. But Mr. Mayett looked them in the eye and said firmly, even if it seems bold, the truth is, you've never shown much interest in Joyce before. And now that your other daughter has left, trying to control Joyce like this is unfair, don't you think? That's rude. How could you, an outsider, pretend to know anything about us? My father snapped. Mr. Mayett calmly replied, maybe that's true. But life is all about how we treat others. Relationships are built through real connections, not just blood. He looked around the restaurant. My parents followed his gaze and noticed everyone was staring. Their faces turned pale. Other people had overheard everything, and the mood in the restaurant had changed. Everyone looked disappointed. One person whispered, I didn't expect Dr. Jordan to be so disrespectful. That's not true, my father said, his voice shaking. Just then, the restaurant chef walked over and set down my father's favorite dish. Dr. Jordan, the chef said, I'm sorry. It must be hard for you to eat food made by us, ordinary people. Please don't worry. We won't serve you again. What? No, that's not what I meant, my father said, panicking. The chef calmly replied, we don't think it's right for people who look down on others to continue using your clinic. We won't be coming anymore, and I'll let others know as well. Everyone was watching. My parents couldn't handle the shame. Without saying another word, they rushed out of the restaurant, leaving their food and the medical school pamphlets behind. After that day, they never tried to pressure me into becoming a doctor again. Some time later, they came back to me, not with demands but with a request, almost begging. We want to clear up everyone's misunderstandings, my parents said. After the incident at the restaurant, many patients stopped going to their hospital. The hospital had been around for a long time and had many older, regular patients, many of whom also ate at that same restaurant. Word spread quickly among the local elderly community. People started saying the hospital had the worst doctors who didn't care about their patients. Many patients began switching to a new hospital near the train station. The new doctors were not only skilled but also kind and friendly. Once people left, they didn't come back to my father's hospital. Things went downhill fast. The hospital's management became a mess. My father got stressed and started yelling at the staff. Because of this, nurses and office workers began quitting one after another. This made things even worse and spread more rumors that the hospital had serious problems. Both staff and patients kept leaving. Running the hospital became too expensive. My parents thought if I helped clear up the bad image, people might return. But once a bad reputation spreads, it's hard to fix. And honestly, much of it was true, so there wasn't really anything to correct. Still, some stories were made up or overblown. One rumor claimed my father once stood up in a restaurant and shouted, "This chef is useless," demanding an apology. That never actually happened, but oddly enough, I can almost picture it, as if I saw it. In the end, the family-owned hospital had to shut down. Our relatives blamed my parents for what happened. Unable to face the shame, My parents sold our once proud family home and moved to a quiet, lonely life in the countryside. 6 years have passed. I've built a solid career as an architect, working at the firm run by Cheryl's in-laws. I'm still learning and not yet among the top designers, but I work hard every day to reach my dream. That dream is to design the diner that will be run by Kelly and Cheryl. Kelly and I also want to open the diner once a week just for local children because just like Cheryl saved us, we want to give back and help others. This dream is very special to us, a promise between sisters. With support from Cheryl and the amazing people we work with, I'm living a happy and meaningful life every day.